If you achieve something good with hard work, the labor passes away, but the good remains. If you do something shameful for the sake of pleasure, the pleasure passes, the shame remains. And with that, another daily Kaupen Yap over here where I talk for 10 minutes unedited, and after 10 minutes, I just cut it off. This quote came to mind after what I mean, I didn't really do anything crazy, but, you know, I just ordered a wrap and a pizza and like pizza rolls and all of that craziness. And, you know, from time to time, obviously, like indulge a little, right? Like that's what life is also about. However, every single time after something like that, I always, you know, you feel bloated, you feel sort of sluggish, heavy, at least in my opinion. That's just what happens to me. And also, for specifically the number of calories you consume, you do not feel satiated. Like you do not feel like you've eaten that much. And that's always crazy to me. So I ate like 3/4 of the pizza and like a wrap and like all of the pizza rolls. And I was like, I really want to eat the rest of the pizza. But I was full. But you still had, like, there was still the signal, you have to eat it. It's so damn delicious. And it's like, that's strange when you think about it, right? And you just don't want to do anything anymore at that point. And of course, sort of evolutionarily speaking, it kind of makes sense why you would, let's say the brain is like, oh, I gotta get this freaking pizza down. Because it's really, really tasty. Like, it's absolutely amazing. But I don't know. I still don't think that that's quite, that's not what we should do. That's not what we should do. And relating back to the first part of the quote, right? If you achieve something good with hard work, the labor passes away, but the good remains. It's so freaking true. In my life, almost any time I have worked on anything that was difficult, when I look back, the difficulty is discounted to such a degree, it is crazy, right? And then I'm going to extend this to things that might be embarrassing. Even those things completely just discounted. Now, sometimes, of course, you can think of this one time 12 years ago where you said something awkward to someone and you're like, oh boy, that was embarrassing. But if you really think about it, if you actually go into it, I don't know, but for me personally, I don't feel, maybe I feel like 3% of the same sort of embarrassment, but it is completely diminished. And could also be the case that it has to do with the specific moments I remember, but it's just not, it just does not feel as heavy as in that instance. And that's quite interesting. And there, it's sort of where you just sort of have to release that. If it still has an emotional grip on you, then either you have to try to work through that, right? Especially if it's like very long ago, right? Anything that's like more than 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure, and that still has like a significant emotional toll on you. There's probably a therapy in mind there, depending on how difficult it is. That's also a thing to think about and keep in mind. But yeah, it is quite interesting that both the hard work, it just is never, in retrospect, is never as hard as it was. And this once again goes back to a quote that I had earlier, or way earlier, like in one of the previous yaps, where is it? I have it written down here somewhere. If not, I'm gonna get it out of like from my mind. I will have to think about it from my mind. In retrospect, the years of hard work will seem like the most beautiful. Something like that. It is definitely something like that. Man, is it so far away? It is. I've written this down a very long time ago. Regardless, but that's the idea. So basically, the idea comes to be that the years of struggle, the struggle is going to be the most beautiful. And any sort of pleasure, while yes, it is fun to think about, or it is fine. Usually, both pleasure and pain are momentary. There are momentary emotions, right? They are things that happen in the present, and they can affect you in your future by when you look to the past. it's very rare that they are going to have the same intensity as they had in that moment. And there is actually another thing that I was just thinking about, but I may or may not have just forgotten it. But that's okay. Going back to let's think about this. So pleasure, running towards pleasure, running away from pain. It goes back to the very same thing, right? If I think Alex Hormozy once said that those are basically the two, or it might have been no, it might have been Tom Bilyeu. Basically, the idea is if there's two like main motivators of life, being pleasure, seeking out pleasure, and avoiding pain, then sometimes both of those should be used. And I do also think that sometimes pain, in very limited capacities, is not only to be avoided. I actually think that one huge thing is that it actually shouldn't be avoided. It's just every single thing in life is riddled with complex issues and paradoxes, right? Every single thing in life is riddled with paradoxes where you have to avoid pain, but also you have to embrace it, and you should hopefully be happy, but you shouldn't strive for happiness, because if you strive for happiness, that's the moment when happiness just disappears. There's another great quote for that, which is, ooh, that's a good one. So that would be happiness. If you think about it, if you evaluate your happiness, happiness disappears. There's something like that. And it's not really, it really is interesting. Oh, here's a good Tony Robbins quote. Pleasure is something coming from the outside, and happiness is something coming from the inside that you share. And there we go back to the distinction here. Peace comes from the inside. It's one of my favorite sort of quotes that I've written down myself. It's nothing, 100% someone else has said this before, but I'm just writing this down. And it's like, every time I write it down, I'm like, yes, because it does come from the inside. And then the thing about peace is, it's not even that, let's say something comes in from the outside, be it pleasure or pain, then it's not about whether or not you feel the pleasure or the pain. It is how fast you're going to be able to recover. So one of those things might be, let's say, relating this to let's say like content creation-ish, you receive a negative comment on the internet, or you just, someone like is rude to you on Twitter, which, I mean, first of all, get the frick off Twitter, but that's secondary. The idea is still like someone is rude to you in real life or on the internet. And then it's not about whether or not you have an emotional reaction. You're most likely going to have an emotional reaction to it. That's fine. That is human. The question is, how fast can you go back to baseline where it neither bothers you nor excites you in one way or the other? So neither positive nor negative. And I think that's an interesting one as well. So the idea is that, yes, you cannot have something, how fast can you bounce back, right? And then that extends to not only, bad things happening to you, but also, let's say, hey, you failed at something. How fast can you bounce back from that? And that really determines, like, roughly how far you're gonna go. And yeah, that's sort of one thing to keep in mind. To really go and train the muscle of peace within you, right? So there's, oh man, I have forgotten his name, but there's this Buddhist monk. He's a German Buddhist monk that goes around podcasts and has a little bit of a like TikTok and shorts following. And he once said that he was asked whether or not he's happy, and he said that my life is not about happiness, it is about peace and sort of contentment. And then he was asked whether or not he's at peace. He said every day more and more. And you can see on his face that he was happy with that answer and that question. Very interesting. It's very interesting. But yeah, life is full of paradoxes, and who knows where to go from here. Do I have anything specific to share over here as practical advice? Not really. Just keep going and talk to you again